by the way, I don't look at the chat in class. So you can say all the snarky things you want, but I can't split my attention like that. So if you need to say something to me, you like actually say it. Okay. All right. So moving around the room, but by the way, today's what we're going to do in class today, we're not going to spend the whole class on this material. This is going to be a we're going to run through it, and certainly somewhere by the middle of the class time, I want to move forward into the rest of the material we're going to be doing, which is Schlägisch. Let's have the F word. All right. Yay. So just moving around the room, just a quick feedback, check in on how you're doing with this material. Caitlin, then Lisa.
This is fine and fun and nice to come back to Adonai Malach with different text. It's kind of like a party trick because I don't think my congregation would ever let me get away with this, which is why we all have to get together offline and try this out on each other. But
Hey,
yeah,
just don't stand on the limb and say, "Let me teach you a party trick."
that's a term just for among us. No, it's good. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Then Kevin.
Yeah, I also am happy to come back to this, feeling like I'm starting to understand things and starting to have fun.
Yay. Right. Kevin, Lauren, if you can stand saying anything.
I'm struggling a little bit, to be honest with you, because this is a part of the service that is so like cemented in my head that I get sort of halfway through trying to riff on it, and then my mind wants to just continually pull me somewhere familiar. So I'm so appreciative of the charts, but I'm still I'm just being honest. I'm just struggling a little.
Fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. No. Of course. Thanks.
Yay. Lauren, what do you think?
So I'm just happy to be in a familiar place where it actually sounds like something I already know. So obviously struggling with, not struggling, but just trying to make sure I capture what is the correct aspects of Adonai Malach versus, what I know from my congregation. But I also enjoyed this week having a chance to try to adapt the vote the way I wanted to for a long time, which was to add the women alongside the men in the beginning. So it gave me a chance to kind of play with that. So kind of fun this week.
Yay. Okay. Then Rachel, but on a note on what Lauren said, Lauren just sent me the chart of the way they do it in your shul, Lauren, and the
second half is the way we do it. The first half is me trying to add the women in a way that is similar but would be different enough that they wouldn't try to sing along exactly right away.
Right. The salient point here is that the lower end of the Adonai Malach scale is the same as major, essentially, and the chart that you sent me has. You could say it's in Adonai Malach because you have all the notes of the lower part of that scale. That particular melody doesn't go up as far as the Adonai Malach intervals, right? So you could say it's Adonai Malach. You could also say it's major. Yeah. Okay. Rachel, then Ariel.
I'm feeling pretty good with it. It's kind of like Kevin was saying. It's kind of like a fun brain trick, improvising within something that your brain is like, no, we do this, and you're like, no, we're gonna try other stuff. So having fun. Also, if there's really loud noises while I'm singing, there's construction on my house.
Oh, thank you for warning us. Ariel, then Alex.
Yeah, I don't think I have much new to add. Like I resonate with what everyone is sharing. Nice to be in a familiar place, feeling a little more confident to play around. I did have a little trouble with the second chart. I think it was chart 1. There were just certain things in there that were hard for me, so I just had to like do it over and over and over and over and over. But yeah, other than that, all good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, feeling good and a little bit more familiar land is nice. And yeah, ditto to everyone.
Yay. Okay. Well, in this case, yeah, you'll notice there's only there's 3 charts in the folder for this material. Partly because you guys already know Adonai Malach pretty well, and we didn't need to pull it apart into its little pieces. If anybody who really has trouble with figuring out Adonai Malach, go to the Kabbalat Shabbat charts, and it's right there, like back in 1A or something like that. But I think everybody's pretty good on that. The Ariel, in terms of, actually, are we going to record? Yeah, okay.
We are already.
Recording, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay, hi, it is Thursday, November 17th. Is that right? Yeah, thank you. 2022, and we are going into the Amida. We are doing the first 2 brachot of the Amida, which are in Adonai Malach, which is why we're working on this. And by the way, well, there will be a major Nusach shift at the end of Gurot. We're going into the Kedusha in Shachrit, going into Shabbat Amida Fregish, which is a whole other subject that we're hopefully going to get to in this class. And also for them who are being cautious or involved in a congregation that does a Musaf Amida, the Kedusha in Musaf is different. The Kedusha in Musaf is actually in Adonai Malach also. So the Kedusha in Shachrit and the Kedusha in Musaf are going to be different. But first, let's get Avot Nevuot going. The Shabbat Amida number 1 chart that Ariel, you alluded to, that you said you had had a little bit of trouble with, is not a it's a sample template. It is not thou shalt sing it like this at all, because it's one way of doing this material in Adonai Malach. And I don't want anybody to feel locked into this particular setting. It is a reasonable example of what one would do or what one could do if one were not locked in, as Kevin alluded, to a particular standard way we all do it together. Actually, there are 2 paragraphs. One is Avot, the other is Gevurot. Okay. Now, Gevurot is, everybody sings a standard tune. That's the Max Wahlberg tune from like 1960. Et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I'm not going to touch that right now. The Avot, there is kind of a standard way everybody does it. The interesting thing is that it's a congregational setting of out-of-time Nusach, which is already very different from what was done maybe a couple hundred years ago. It's a minhag that has cropped up over the course of the 20th century. We see it in a couple of other places. We see it at Lador Vador at the end of the Kedusha, where communal melody, it's kind of interesting, is not only straight ahead rhythmic folk melodies, but it's actually settings of Nusach, which has, well, we can talk about this later. We'll get back to this. Its own advantages and challenges, because if there's only one way of doing something and you're kind of locked into that, well, then there you are, locked. So we can go there later. So let's take a look here. The idea here was, number 1, there's 3 charts. That's the assignment. It's 1, 1A, and 2. Okay. I told you, learn them all 3. They're not hard. They're not, huge. And the second part of the assignment was to prepare either the Avot paragraph or Gevurot in free Adonai Malach, using all of that. And apropos, before I tell you to, before I start saying, you sing now, and Caitlin, of course, you're first because you were early. Does anybody have any questions about how this all works? Just making sure you grok what's going on here. It's what it is. It's not terribly complicated. It doesn't have the Meshuggah modulations that we're going to get into later on in the Amida. It's basically straight ahead out of my malach, and it's a question of doing it so that you do the chatima in a nice, solid out of my malach way, which is a little bit different from doing it in Kabbalat Shabbat, because the Kabbalat Shabbat Psalms don't have any brachot. So yeah, there's a little bit of attention that you need to that. Ariel?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So we're back in Adonai Malach starting at the Amidah, right? At the beginning of the Amidah.
Yeah.
And when does it switch again to Fregish?
At the end of Gevurot and or the beginning of the Kedusha, the Kadesh. Okay, so
okay. I
if you're in,
saw I marked it in myself.
okay, right, yeah, well, the pencil marks everywhere. Post-its, right. So page 96 in Silverman is Adonai Malach. You turn to page 97, you've switched Nusach. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So let's see. Before we run through the charts, which are going to, I'm anticipating they're all pretty self-evident. Let's do the fun stuff. Caitlin, take us into the Amida, please.
Okay, freestyling is a lot harder for me than charts, but let's do something in Adonai Malach.
Remember, if you have a little bit of awkwardness about freestyling, improv, don't do it in text. Like what else do you do when you take a shower? Just warble away. Improv melody, right? Okay. And then later on, you set text, right?
All right.
So go for it.
All right. So in my show, we would begin with Adonai Sifatai Tiftach. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. And that's not a good key, so we're going to go down. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol Hagibor Behanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imaot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava.
Yeah, or you could do the straight ahead leading. Leman Shemo Be'ahava. Standard Kabbalah Shabbat ending, right?
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Right, great. Continue, please. Take us through the bracha.
Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. That's where I should go, right?
Yep.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai. No?
Yeah, let's go to the 5. Yes,
okay.
Going to the 5 is so nice and bright and like present. If you go to the tonic, then you sort of stop the action.
Okay.
Right?
Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sahara.
Amen. Beautiful. I know the term I was looking for was freeze frame. Right? If you hit the tonic, you don't freeze frame.
One of my favorite songs from the 80s.
We all date ourselves. Cool. Yay. Okay, lovely. No, that's dead on. And noticing that going to the 5 is seems to be that's where that mode goes. And we did this in Cab Shab also. Yam ba bam ba bam ba ba bam ba 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 ba. Right? That's your go-to note. All over the place. Yeah. Okay. Lisa with the rainbow in her hair. Do you know that? Do you have any idea what your picture is doing? It's glorious.
Sundog.
Oh, here we go.
Oh my, that's Lisa in the sky with diamonds.
Right. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Avraham v'Elohei Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah v'Elohei Rivka v'Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagavor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot ומביאים גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Oh man, yeah, twinkle on that one. Yeah, fab. Kevin, and then not Lauren, then Rachel.
I was going to do from Atagi Bor Leolam Adonai.
Oh, you're going to do the second one. Okay.
Atagi Bor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Mitimata Rav Lehoshia Mashiv Haruach Umarid Hagashem Mechal Chel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye Mitim Barachmin Rabim Somech Noflim Verofe Cholim Umatir Asurim Umakaye umanatoli shene afar mi chamocha baal gevorot umido melech me mit umakaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'na'eman ata lahachayot metim baruch ata Adonai mechaye hametim.
Or seeing as, I mean, that's technically fine, but seeing as you're, at that point, you're going to zap people into the Kedusha on the next page, it might be more effective to end on the 5 again. Mechaye hametim. Turn the page, Davin, right?
Yeah, I wanted to do that, and then I chose not to. But
That's okay. That's I'm just pointing out. Mechaye hametim. It's gorgeous. No problem. All right. Yeah, Rachel, then Ariel.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot u'mevii goel libnei bneihem למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah, and I also, everybody noticed she used the modulation to the 4. Catch that? Catch that? You all caught it, of course. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, nice work. Yeah, no, fine. That's part of the whole thing. I was kind of waiting to hear somebody who would actually do that, but then you did it. Yay, thank you. Okay, Ariel, then Alex.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים, אתה רב להושיע. משאיר הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות המתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
Amen. Yeah, thank you. Alex, you might be driving in your car, so I'm hesitating, but if you feel you can.
I'm not driving in my car, but thank
Oh.
you for caring.
Okay,
I'm just sitting in my car.
that's okay. You can sit in your car. Go
It's
ahead.
nice to kind of be outside, kind of, and
Oh,
be with you
yeah.
guys. I'll do the one right before the Baruch Atah.
Mhm.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chastei Havot Chastei Havot V'Imochot U'Migula Livneihem למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה.
Yay! Wonderful work, everybody. Thank you. And before we dive, you just go through the other charts. Just a little brief note about, it's one thing that that all of us at one time or another have possibly a little bit of trouble with is trying to understand, what this means for me, like how this is, how what's about these texts, where are they from, what are they doing, what's the origin of this. And you've probably covered this in the Shabbat V'chol class, but just a couple of quickies here to note what all this stuff is about. In the middle of the first bracha, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon. Anybody know who El Elyon is? Caitlin, tell us who El Elyon. Pop quiz.
It's like God of gods or Lord of lords. It's like the God the highest.
I'll do you one better. It's actually a Canaanite concept. If you put yourself, like along the shore of Israel there, okay, and you can see the storm coming in, the whole storm coming across the sea in the distance. And this was kind of like a Zeus figure, the high power that throws the lightning bolts down. So it's actually a Canaanite concept that got, that's part of our God. We put that right in there.
Claim it all.
Oh yeah, well, it's all God, right? Okay, there's some issues around this. It looks like God of our ancestors, and that's cool. And we're also calling on the presence of the ancestors. But if you dive in just a slightly lower, one layer down under the surface of that, if it's the same God as our ancestors, okay, as connected with, I'm using the term English God just as a quickie because I want to say Kadosh Baruch Hu every time out, right? Okay, and if time is defined as change, then what does that tell you about this understanding of the Kadosh Baruch Hu relative to time?
Unchanging?
Okay, outside of time. This is a whole nother, conceptual and experiential thing, right? So that's an interesting thing to try to connect with, consciousness outside of time. We're inside of time. It's stuck in it whether we like it or not. And take a quick look at in Mechalkel Chaim. It's the term is it's gevurot, which means powers, but and this is about Mechalkel supports all life with with flowing love, etc. And one question is, what does it mean by brings the dead to life? Mechaye hametim. That's an interesting one, and some modern books, the Reform and the Recon, have things like Mechaye Kol Chai, Mechaye HaKol, and just curious, where do you think Mechaye HaMetim might fit in? Kevin?
I don't always think of death as being like a literal thing. I think it's like, you can be dead spiritually and emotionally, and I love that when I hear things like who gives life to the dead, it's for me it's comforting, like that you can get your soul restored. That's the way
I felt dead, but this gave me life again.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Right. Alex?
It kind of has brought to me like the memory of our past ones are alive in us, and in this moment of reading this, their memory is brought alive in us.
Okay. And all right, there's a we're leading to my particular taina with the people that those alternative wordings, because Mechaye HaMeitim, if you look at it from that point of view, is perfectly reasonable. If anything, it's beautiful. And there's also the old line is, the past isn't dead, it isn't even the past. So Mechaye Meitim is a perfectly reasonable concept from that point of view. Also, by the way, just looking at the text, Melech, source, never mind king, okay, Meimit umechaye, who deals death and life. Okay. Does this remind us, it depends on how much Eastern religions you've studied, does this remind anybody of anything? Okay, blanks, deer in headlights look. No.
Yin yang.
Reincarnation?
Possibly. There's a specific Indian goddess named Kali who nurtures her children and devours them. So we got a little bit of theological stretching going on. Just saying.
I have a Kali figurine on my altar.
Thank you for sharing. All right. Okay. Let's take a quick look here at, now that just in terms of all the Nusach thing we've been doing, Shabbat Amida number 1, I asked everybody to learn it. Okay, but the free stuff you've been doing has been perfectly lovely, and I'm not going to ask you to go around the room and sing this chart down because you came up with your own, right? But what I'd like to do is just lightly go through it, because it has all of the elements that you guys were doing, but it's one particular setting. Just this actually, if you've got students in your congregation, it's not a bad thing to have around. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov. Absolutely no surprises in this whole thing now that you understand the mode, right? Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Vehanura, El Elyon. A little bit of the 4 there, but okay. Gomel chasadim tovim vekone hakol vezocher chasdei avot. And there's 2 options. Umevi goel livnei v'neihem. That's your 4. Leman shemo be'ahava. Option 2. Umevi goel livnei v'neihem leman shemo be'ahava. Note little deceptive cadence in measure 26. Okay, and it's really straight ahead. Melech ozer u'mashiach u'magen baruch atah Adonai magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Reason I run this right now is just to note that everything you guys did is just as good as what I wrote. Okay, yeah, how about that? You know, and in some ways more inventive, right? Because I was trying to keep it kind of basic and simple there. Interesting, yeah, fascinating. Thanks, guys. Okay, let's take a quick look here at 1A, which is germane because for a couple of reasons. One is it was written by Moshe Nathanson, who gets a certain amount of credit in the history of modern Jewish communal singing. We'll get to that in a second. And also because it's an alternative, easily singable melody for avot. You know, we have had and will have this conversation any number of times about doing the same melody for the same text week in, week out, year in, year out. Okay, and you know, things do get tired and threadbare at a certain point. I mean, I might have my favorite jacket, but at a certain point the elbows are going to wear out. So everybody know Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov, right? Okay, which is perfectly okay as far as it goes. And however, in the interest of creating more variety in congregational life, this is the Moshe Nathanson setting, and I might ask. We might just jump around the room, and I'll have several people. You know, you X sings one line, somebody else sings another line. We'll just run right through it just to get the feel of it. However, a word on Moshe Nathanson. Anybody know who Moshe Nathanson was? Okay, lovely man. He was the Chazan. He was originally a student of Edelson, who wrote the book way back when on Jewish ethnomusicology, and Moshe Nathanson was for decades the Chazan of SAJ, Society for the Advancement of Judaism, which was the flagship shul where Mordecai Kaplan went to shul, of the original Reconstructionist movement in New York, right? And he did some a whole lot of interesting stuff. He came up with. By the way, does anybody recognize where this is from? What it is an adaptation? Okay, pop quiz. Stick up your hand and say so, please.
Kevin nailed it the other day.
Kevin, nail it, please.
That's benching.
Exactly, it's Birkat Hamazon. All right. So think it. Moshe Nathanson wrote Birkat Hamazon, the one we all do. That standard, major key all the way through, etc., etc. This is his work, right? And it's been adapted to Avot. This is actually, not everybody does that. I mean, if you've ever had sat at a meal with somebody who's really frum, like a serious Orthodox person, they will take out their own personal bencher usually and quietly daven through it themselves. It's not a communal sing-along. Just say it, right? And what Nathanson did is, as part of the movement over the course of the 20th century to find things that everybody could sing together, this is what he came up with. And also, by the way, Moshe Nathanson gets credit for Hava Nagila. Do you know that already? Maybe you knew it. Okay, yeah. The story it's a legendary story, but it probably is true, because I heard it in a number of places, is that Hava Nagila originally it's an old Hasidic niggun. Okay, and he was in class with Edelson and said, if I may, this melody really needs words. It doesn't work well as a melody by itself. Okay, and Edelson said, okay, go home and find some words for it, come back again. And he did, and he came up with Hava Nagila, which is, that's an interesting Jewish music trivia about Moshe Nathanson. And here's a slight digression on the subject of Hava Nagila. Zalman, I've heard him do, he's very interesting. If you take Hava Nagila really slow, it's a really deep contemplative melody. Try it with me for a second. Ay, 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 ay. You can see, yeah, it's gorgeous, and it's not just a hora. Okay, back to Shabbat 1a. What I'd like to do is, I'll tell you what, Caitlin. First line and a half, all the way through Yaakov, and then Kevin, all the way through Vakone Hakol, through measure 14, and then how about Rachel from 15 to the end? Okay, all right.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham,
Tempa, Elohei Avraham,
Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov.
Okay, Kevin.
Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora Elyon Gomer Chasedim Tobim V'Koneh HaKol. Oh, me? Oh.
Oh, no, you were right. My bad. Okay, yeah. Rachel 15. Measure 15. V'zocher. Unmute. Rachel, unmute.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, נאמן שמו באהבה.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And then continue in Nusach with Melech, Ozer, etc. Okay. I hope everybody can get the point here. Number one, for people who have done Birkat Hamazon, it's totally familiar and it falls right into place. And for them that don't, it's still easily learned, easily sung. It's solid Nusach. He even does a little bit of going into the modulating to the 4, then coming back out. Nathanson really knew Nusach quite solidly, of course. And it's perfectly. I find there's a charm to it. It works well in shul. All right, so I propose that as a nice alternative. You could do one melody one week, another melody another week, and as you gradually grow your collection of alternative melodies for things, you can end up with, for every series, a whole different group of permutations. We're doing this melody for this week, then that melody for that another week, and it makes the atmosphere fresher, a little bit of a fresh breeze, and it opens the door to more spiritual aliveness and creativity in his service. And this is just a simple technique of some alternative folk melodies can be very effective in how you want to design your services. Okay, so much for chart 1A. Thank you kindly. And now Amida number 2 is the Gevurot endings. Okay, and there's clearly several here. I'm going to call on the people who didn't just do this last thing. So it's going to be Lisa, then Ariel, and Alex, if you can stay with us still. Okay, so this is Lisa. This is Shabbat Amida 2 Gevurot endings. The middle of the first line where it says Adonai Malach 1. Okay.
ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
Watch out. Yeah, come on, do the music right. Measure 5, please. Go to the octave.
מחיי המתים.
Yeah, right?
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's the old, if you've got it, flaunt it.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Okay, Ome. All right, number 2, Ariel, can you pick that up? That's measure 6.
ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים.
Baruch.
ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
Amen. Yeah.
המתים.
Yeah, you got the idea. I mean, I'm not going to worry about specific note values here. You got the idea. That was fine. Amen. Thank you. Alex, going to measure 12. Okay. Let's do option 1 first. Yeah.
Okay. Can I have the A, if you don't mind? Thanks. Okay. Baruch atah.
7th. Atah.
Baruch atah Adonai mechayim. Well,
Yes. Yeah, right. Your sound is going in and out a second. Baruch atah. If you're going to do a 7th leap, you might as well milk it a bit, hey? Okay. Yam bayad Adonai mechayeh hametim. So guess what, folks? We are using the bracha as a gear changer to switch into Fregish, Amida Fregish. It's a musical heads up because it's like, here comes the rest of the service, guys. Right? Enough with that on the malach.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
Lisa,
a question?
Yeah, please.
So when I did my freestyle at the beginning, I used the Fragish at the very end. Was that a mistake?
What
I Fragished on my,
on Magen Avraham?
yeah, I did.
Something I did not hear it. Okay, so I confess it didn't strike me as being a Fregish cadence. Maybe the pitch didn't come through. Whatever it is, the answer is no. Thou mayest not do Fregish in Avot. For the end of Avot, it's only for the end of the Gevurot thing because it's the gear changer to the Kedusha.
That's what I just.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I apologize for not having heard it. And I could go back and listen to the recording. Was she really doing that? Oh no!
You could. Then why not?
Oy vey. All right. Okay. I'm gonna let's go around the room a little bit and do the Fregish ending here. Everybody knows what Fregish is by this time. It's a question of how you're going to do that. So Caitlin, could you do measure 12 and then option 2? And then Kevin, I'll ask you to do option 3.
Baruch atah Adonai. And then option 2, did you say?
Yes.
Mechaye. Damn. Mechaye hametim.
Yeah, good point. Okay, like there's a mental switch, there's an ear switch, and you've got to give a clear signal to the community about the switch. So if anything,
And I shouldn't say what I just said as my signal to the community.
yeah, I wouldn't go there. Certainly not in a contract year. Okay, okay. So, but wait a second. That B flat is the Klieg light shining on this. On that is it right there. So Baruch atah Adonai. Okay, could you do it again and really just lean on that B flat so we know? Oh boy, here it comes. Right? Could you do the whole thing again, please? Baruch.
Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hametim.
Mechayeh hametim. What I was looking for is ayayay. It's a slow signifier. Ayayay. Do it again, please. Let's hear that.
Baruch atah.
Atah.
Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hametim.
Okay. Well, that's not the chart, but that's okay. You did it right. Thank you. Okay. No, cool. No problem. But you hear what we're doing here. We're sending a message, and so you really want to send it strong. That's all. Okay, Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin, do us a favor and do the opening, measure 12, and then switch.
Okay.
Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh. Sorry. Mechayeh hametim.
Right. Okay. Yes. Now there's. I'm hearing two signifiers there. Okay. Can you tell me? That's a subtle hint. Tell me where these stress points are. Where are the signifier moments in, let's say, in measure 19?
Well. Well, I would stress the last one, but
okay. Well, you could. But
the yay, like the first one. Yay.
Okay, yeah, the E flat, that's number one. It's okay. Okay, and the last three notes are a syncopation. Yam bam bam, and in a syncopation, you almost always lean on the first note of a syncopation. So it's going. No. Yawahameti. Well, those notes are all kind of equal power, right? But I was just looking for the signifier moments in measure 19. So that would be the E flat, and then the A of the beginning of the syncopation. Ay ay, because it's ay ay. Oh, yeah, good. All right. Oh, you're in pitch. Okay. Okay, let's do this, and then we're going to be done with this whole segment. Okay, take it from Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh. Okay, good. Signify.
Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hametim.
Amen. Yeah, nice. Yeah, you get the idea, right?
I get it. It's this. I get a little scared of the runs because I'm trying to count the notes, but I love that idea of having somewhere to land before you finish. It's really
Right. Well, it's about stress and release. That's what it's about. Right? Yada da da yada da da yada. This. You might think I'm being picky, but this is actually a critical part of the entire approach to making melody work in a service. So yeah, okay. All right. Well, we've gotten there. Amen on all of these things, and thank you very much. And we are hereby done with. Rachel.
Quick
Sure, go ahead.
question.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, and I'm posing this to the group.
Mm.
What do we think of if one were to do the full avot and gevurot in the classic melody, and then just go to the Fragish ending for Hametim? So you'd be like, Baruch Atah Adonai Hametim.
What do you think, Rachel?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think it's cool musically, but I'm trying to decide if like a congregation would be too thrown off, or if it would be a nice way to get them into the kedusha.
Okay. Does anybody else have a thought on the subject? She's doing it simple, right? Baruch atah Adonai hametim. Okay, in which case the signifier is the E flat. It's the penultimate note. Ay, 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 ay. Okay, the goal here is to move the congregation into the next page. Okay, so does anybody have a problem with it? No, okay. Okay, see, no problem. No, it's a question of what's effective. Because if you're going to, the only reason that I might not use the going right back down to the tonic, right, is that going to the 5 or the 3 is typically more effective at galvanizing folks to turn the page and go into the next thing. Right, that's the only reason. Technically, I have no problem with what you did. Okay, so for instance, just check this out. You're going to do it back to me. Baruch atah Adonai hametim. Do it exactly the way you did before.
Baruch atah Adonai hametim.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hametim. You do it.
Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hametim.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hametim.
Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hametim.
Yeah. Okay. Now, those are the 3 possible way endings that set up the Fragish. Okay, and I am not going to be prescriptive. You guys get to make the decisions depending on what the weather is like on a given Shabbos morning, and where you feel you want to go as to how effective one of those 3 options is. It's pretty simple. It's really about what note are you going to end on that you feel is going to be effective for you. See, so I'm being a good therapist. I'm saying, oh, you figure it out, dear. Okay, cool. Listen, this is a good place to do a gear change, and let's take a couple of minutes, and then we'll be off and running, okay? And now for something completely different. Shabbat Amida Fragish, which we are about to discover is in its own little way, just because it uses the Fragish scale that we all know and love, is in some significant ways the most complex of Nusachs. In some ways, everything we've done so far with all the other material we've done all semester is kind of like a nice prep in the shallow end of the pool, so you can learn how to splash around before going into this mode, which has it's kind of a salad of modulations. It's one of those you go to a one of those snappy restaurants and they have, one of the major items on the menu is chef's salad, which has all these different things that are mixed in. You wouldn't expect pieces of pear and avocado to be next to each other, right? Et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. You've been to that restaurant, huh? Right, Ariel? There's one in Chestnut Hill that does that. Yeah. Okay. So, Shabbat Amida 3a, Pete, please. Right. We're going to be spending a couple of weeks on this Nusach, and then we're going to be spending the last class or two of the semester rounding it all off and hitting a few other bases here and there, like say Shabbat Mincha, etc. But meanwhile, here we are doing this. Okay. You guys are going to sing along with me, all right? We're just going to work our way through this. I think it's mostly self-explanatory, but I'll point out a couple of things that are worth pointing out. One is that this is almost identical to the Middle Eastern Makam Hijaz. Right? Then who in the Makam class are going, oh, wait a minute, yeah, there's that, right? Okay, can anyone, Kevin, you're nodding and smiling a lot, so how about you? Can you tell us the difference between the Middle Eastern Hijaz roughly and this particular scale, the way we use it?
Well, in the Hijaz, you have like a B flat and an E flat and an F sharp usually. So that's just what
right.
I'm understanding, but I'm not exactly sure what.
Okay. All right, I'll tell it. I'll tell it. Let's not lose time on it. Okay, it's real simple. It's basically and aside from what you said, Kevin, because my chart is Frege on E. Okay, so yeah, it has an F natural and a G sharp. That's the same thing, except that Makam Hijaz is a little bit different on the ascending than on the descending. On the ascending, the 6, which in this case would be the C, is actually a half flat. It would be a C sharp half flat, okay? But on the descending, it's exactly the same scale as we use. It's yum bum pum 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 pa 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 roughly. All right. So just saying, this is one reason that Ashkenazi synagogue culture uses this so much is arguably that. This does not show up in Polish music, if you get my drift. This is, our own music, okay? We do it different, okay? This is not like the Germans, etc., etc. There is crossover. The Hijaz scale, the Fregish, is used in some Ukrainian folk music, and also so it shows up at a number of other places in the Balkan countries and Greece. Also in Turkey, there is an alternative version of the Hijaz scale called Hijaz Kar, which has a sharp 7th. So it's yum pa 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 pa, right? We incorporate some of those licks into the alternatives that we have for Fregish. So, okay. Also, in terms of its Makam origins, you'll notice the first few lines all go to the 5. Yeah, ba 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 bum 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 ba. Okay, all right, and then something interesting happens. Take a look at measure 15. That's example 14. It's ya pa 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 pa. Got several things that go to the 4 of the scale before it goes. Let's see if you take that at a motif number 24, which says back to the tonic, yum pa 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 pa. So here you have, again, analogous to what we saw in Shochenad, which is minor, where you use the 5 a lot, yum pa 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 pa, and then you end up using that 4 structure, yum ba 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 ba, which is the non-Western version. So here again we have our feet in a couple of different musical languages. Lauren, question.
Yes. Okay. So I can follow the scale going up, and I see where we go to the sharp on the G. With the notations like on measure 3, then you suddenly have a C sharp. Is that because when you reverse the scale, is that
that is a part of the Nusach. It sort of goes to like a little bit of major underneath the tonic, right? It's just let's put it this way. I have it in there. There's another one. Motif number 4 does the same thing. All right, and this is where we Ashkenazim have stretched the original Hijaz. This is not part of the Middle Eastern modality. This is where we have taken Fregish and adapted it and filtered it through the Eastern European majority cultures that we live among. Okay.
So I guess my question is like, there's also a D sharp in 8. How do we then apply it in other keys? Because if this is an E on E, then I get it. But then how would I do that? Well,
I mean, if you were to transpose it, but the intervals, the relationships would be the same.
Okay.
Okay. The idea is it's motif number 8 is ay 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 ay. Okay. Yeah. I'm not telling you that you have to do this thing on E. This chart happens to be on E. You can do it in C, B flat, or anything you want. It's all about getting the scale, all the intervals in place and the motifs.
I guess I just trying to understand when do you use the D sharp versus
Okay, that is a good question, and I hope that over the course of working with all of this material, which as you can see is a bit of a salad, right? That we'll figure out how it all happens, which is why I say we're going to spend a couple of weeks with this entire Nusach here. It's in some ways it's your first. It's the biggest challenge that you guys have run into so far, just because of its salad nature. Okay, so
Can I add an addendum to
Go ahead.
the under the scale thing?
Mhm.
If you recall that it frequently happens that below the bottom octave of these Nusach scales, it's different, and above the octave, it's different, then you might not feel like as freaked out by it. Like, oh, right, sometimes the scale is different below the octave.
Yeah, it's a little under the tonic lick. That's okay. It's one of those things that shows up. Thank you. Right. Okay. So let's take a look here.
Is this different above also? Does the Fregus change above?
If you're sticking to the pure basic Fregish scale, no, but we will find out a couple of charts along where indeed things can change because there's going to be a little bit of Bishaberach that slows up. Okay, so the answer is eventually, yeah, but let's stick to the basics for the moment. Okay, all right. Okay, so right now this is the first line or more is basically opening ideas. Remember, the way a Nusach works is going to be how do you open a section of text, and then, of course, how do you close it? What are your final cadences? How do you end the thing off? And then all the things you do in the middle. The beginning of a Fregish section of Davening is pretty standard and consistent. It's the first couple of lines of the chart here. The end, similarly, is fairly consistent, although there's a few changes here and there. It's in the middle that's going to drive us into having to think. Okay, so let's go. Basically, I just like to let's sight read this through. I'll sing it. You guys sing along. Okay. I mean, if we were in the same room together, we'd have the Jewish Tabernacle Choir. But this way, you just do it with me, right? 1, 2, 3. The scale we know. Okay, we know Flake. Come on, it's Flake. It's in our bloodstream. All right, so this is my note. Yeah. Motif 1. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Number 2. Yeah, 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 yeah. 3. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Note the signifier. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 4. Bo, 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 bo. Fancy ending, fancy beginning. 5. Ay, ay. 6. Ay, 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 ay. 7. Ay, ay, ay. 8. Ay, ay, ay. Note the signifier. 9. Ay, 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 ay. 10. Ay, 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 ay. 11. Ay, 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 ay. 12. Ay, 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 ay. 13. Aha, goes to the 4th. Ay, 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 ay. 14. Ay, 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 ay. Or 15, same thing. Ay, 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 ay. 16, we go up a little bit because we're on the 4th of the scale. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. 22. Ay, 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 ay. 23. Ay, 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 ya, da, 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 da. 24. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. 26. Ay, 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 ay. 27. Ay, 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 ay. Or ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 ay. Okay, I'm throwing the floor open to hear what you think so far. What do you notice? Please don't ask me questions about, oh my God, how do I use this, Jack? Okay, that's what we're going to be working on, right? But what have you picked up so far in just doing all of this stuff? What did you notice? Rachel? Rachel? Unmute. Rachel?
I was frozen for a sec. I actually have a question about the chart, if that's okay, but it's not how do I use this. It's like, how do I read this?
Uh-huh. Right.
Is that cool? So, at number 5, is that, do the opening ideas kind of end there and we're beginning a middle section?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, what's the structure in terms of what are the opening ideas and all of that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's honestly, it's a tad hard to answer insofar as the way this mode works. You sort of go somewhere and you sort of keep going with it. However, let's just say that anything that starts on well, you have, number one, you have establishment of tonic. You want to make sure that everybody knows what your root position is, okay? Establishment of tonic is numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, where they go to the 1, okay? That is strongly established, okay? You don't have to do those every time out. There are options, okay? 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9, and 10 go from the, well, not entirely, but basically go from the tonic to the 5. Yum bum bum bum, yum bum ba, which really locks in the anchor points of where you're going to be, because that's your tonic and that's your 5, and you're going to be doing stuff all over the scale around that. And then the rest of it just goes, well, here's some options for you, honey, right? And eventually you're going to be coming back. All right? Back to my original question. What do you notice about some of the functioning of this? Like, where does it go? What does it do? Are there any modulations? What are the cadences like? This is a question. Let's be specific. Do you see any modulations here? Caitlin?
Well, it's clear that a lot of the material around the 4th is important. And we all know a lot of congregational tunes that have a whole section in the 4 and then they go back to the 1.
Right. Okay. Well, that's one good point. The relationship in so far in this Nusach is basic Phrygisch and going to minor on the 4th. It just goes in and out and back and forth. And I'm not even sure I could call it a serious modulation, except when you actually spend some time davening on the 4th in minor, in which case it's a mamash modulation. But there is a kind of fuzzy interplay between the tonic and the 4th of the scale, which is a piece of the Middle Eastern structure. Yum pum pum pum. Those 4 notes are, that group is the lower segment of a Middle Eastern scale. Yum pa 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 pa. That's the upper segment of a Middle Eastern scale. Yum pa pa pa. So we're in non-Western territory for sure. Okay, thank you, Caitlin. Any other thoughts? Did I miss anybody? Okay. Caitlin again.
So I wanted to ask about the usage of in this case, the D sharp, so the sharp 7 versus the natural 7.
Mm-hmm.
Then looking at 8 versus 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so is this one of these things where it functions like a harmonic minor where, it's one thing on the way up and another thing on the way down with the 7?
Not necessarily. Basically, let's just say that the basic Phrygisch scale is the string of footballs on line 1. That's it, okay, with a natural 7th. However, in the heat of the action, as it were, they're interchangeable. If you're singing on the upper part of the scale, having that sharp 7th is going back and forth between the sharp 7th and the natural 7th is a fairly common thing. Okay, and this will eventually take us into Mishaberach territory, but let's stop the argument right there. Right? Does anybody notice anything about the cadences, the cadence process of this mode? Where does it cadence? Lisa! You're
This
muted.
is a pure guess, and I have no idea if I'm right, but it seems to be cadencing from a half step away,
Whole step.
whole step away. Yeah.
Right. Okay. More exactly, there is a name for this. It's called a subtonic minor chord, right? You have yum ba 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 ba. The cadence for ending in this mode is the whole tone minor chord under it. Yum ba 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 ba. So you have this, and eventually we'll analyze this down a little bit more, because the cadence, there's a couple of possible harmonic structures to it. Yam ba 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 bum ba 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 ba. Yam ba 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 bum bo. And that is the end. Yam ba bum bum ba 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 ba. Ya da da da. Right? So, which is kind of implied in the original motif number 1 at the top of the page. It goes yam bam ba ba. So what we have here is a setup of if just thinking chord wise, harmonically speaking, you have yam ba 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 ba. Then going to the 4 on minor, yam ba 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 ba, ya ba 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 ba, ya ba 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 ba. Very modal. Rather non-Western, don't you think? Is yam bam 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 bo 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 bo, and there. Okay, that's where it ends up. If we were harmonizing things. Okay. So yes, now let's try a little something or other here and there, shall we? 3B, come on, where are you? 3B is hiding behind something else. Oh no, we're not going to go there. I will have pity. Let's take a look. Silverman, page 97. This is probably pretty familiar territory for most of y'all. Okay, as a matter of fact, somebody, I'm sure several of you already know how to do this in Fränkisch. So could you take us there, please? Somebody, I'm calling on a volunteer before I tell Kevin what to do. Who knows this already? Come on, you know it.
I know it.
All right, Kevin, you're on.
I think I know it.
Go for it. I think you can. I think you can.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדשים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרב זה על זה ואמר. Sort of.
Yeah. No, not sort of. That was it.
Yeah.
Fine. Right. Yeah, Rachel? Rachel froze with a hand up. Uh-oh. Okay. When you unfreeze, Rachel, we'll be happy to entertain your questions. Okay, so somebody else. Yeah, let's do it slightly differently. Caitlin, you were starting to, and then I'm gonna ask Ariel to do it.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר.
Beautiful. By the way, I don't know if you did this on you. You didn't do it on purpose because you're busy trying to do it right. Okay. Yum ba 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 ba. Does that sound at all familiar?
Well, are you talking about Shalom Aleichem?
No, I'm thinking of Los Bilbilicos cantan en el mes de mayo. Yeah, ba 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 ba. Yeah, mi neshama se escurece sufriendo del amor. Okay, something we have in common with our Andalusian cousins. Absolutely, Fränkisch scale in its own way, all over the pre-modern world, if you will. So yeah, I just happened to hear that. So yay, nice
That's
one.
awesome. That gives me an idea
Oh,
for a
okay.
congregational concert, and then tell them, you already know this because
Uh-huh.
new is scary, but they know that, so they know it.
Right. You want to set it to different words. Shalom Aleichem is obviously one possibility. But when you hear Shalom Aleichem, okay, that's Los Bilbilicos.
But it's nice
Yeah.
to have like some tunes like that in your pocket in places where you need to do Fragish and you're at a loss.
Oh, absolutely.
And you need
Real,
to
real, sure. Yeah.
offer something.
Yeah, that would take us to a different conversation about phrase. One teacher of mine said it's like having some cold hard cash in your pocket, not some credit card you have to process and think. But you're in some sort of public setting, and you're the chazan. So somebody says, "Oh, yeah, Chazan Caitlin, could you do a song for us?" Right, and you go, "Oh God, I gotta swallow my cheap Danish first. Wait a minute. Okay,
What crowd?
okay, here it is.
I do Los Bilbilicos, or is this more of a wade in the water crowd?
No, right. No, anything. It's a piece of skill sets to have a few melodies that you can just go bang. Honestly, I'm picking up on this right now. This might be seem like a slight digression, but it still applies to the work in general. I used to be rather bad at that. People would turn to me and say, "Jack, do you do niggin for us?" This was quite a while ago, yeah, but I would go, "What are you asking me for?" Go away. Right? No. And, okay, so basically, I figured out that I needed to have a half dozen nigunim in my pocket, ready to pull up one. They say, "Jack, how about a nigun?" I say, "Okay, here, pow." All right? And it's real useful to consciously have your basically your quick go-to 4 or 5 nigunim, depending on the situation, where you can say, "Okay, sure," right? Very, very useful skill. Okay, we're moving on. Laura?
So I have a question. So both of those versions were very different than what I am used
Mm-hmm.
to
Right.
in Reform. And I'm wondering if the traditional Reform one is actually in Fragish or not in Fragish. I guess I'd have to do a side by side. So
Can
Caitlin,
you?
you're telling me no, it's not. It's
Well,
major.
You're
wait a
asking about the
second.
Bonya Shore melody?
Nekadesh esimcha ba'olam ki that one.
Yeah, that's Bonya Shore. I don't know if that's in Fragish.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam. That's in minor. It's out of Nusach.
Okay, it's out
Okay.
of Nusach. It's just a
Right.
congregational melody. Okay.
Right. I mean, it's just what it is, and if this is the standard go-to thing that everybody in your shul that this is how we do it, then do it and use this material somewhere else, because you can't. One thing you can't do, and we've had this conversation in DLTI. Don't go back to your home congregation and say, "You guys are doing it all wrong." Right? No. Okay. No. Well, it's right for the situation wherever it is, and
I just appreciate
educate
it
around.
'cause that
Yeah, yeah.
prevents me from having to sit for hours trying to figure it out myself. So thank you.
Okay. Well, you'll figure it out. You'll work on other texts. The nice thing about this is that the entire rest of the Amida on Shabbat morning is done in Fragish. So if you're going to be using the Bonya Shore melody at the beginning, I wish I'd talked to him back when we knew each other a while back. We kind of say, "Must you do this, Bonya? Come on, okay, but whatever." But do what works. But let's go with this. Okay, I'd like to go around the room. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam. Ariel, could you take us there for a minute, please?
Nireh, we will see if I can take us there.
In Fragish.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר,
Last line.
קדוש.
No kadosh at the moment. Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask you to watch your pitch. I've noticed you on Fragish. You got that 2 a little bit off. So let's be real pitch careful. Ay 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 ay. Ay, ay. Can you do that back at me?
Ay, 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 ay.
Okay. V'kara ze el ze ve'amar.
V'kara ze el ze ve'amar.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Good. All right. Rachel, can you do this? Sure you can.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר.
Yeah, thank you. That, by the way, is the most common way, and it's one of those places where we started the class today saying that there are places where the whole congregation ends up singing a piece of Nusach, out of time Nusach, and that has, there's ups and downs to that particular practice. But yeah, that's pretty common. Lisa.
Hey, I'll give this a try. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam.
Watch out, you didn't sharp that third. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam. Ay, 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 ay.
Ba'olam. Nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam. Ki shem kedishim oto b'shemei marom. ככתוב על יד נביאך, קרא זה אל זה ואומר.
Amen. Thank you. Yes. All right. Everybody got the right idea. Every version you guys did was completely correct.
Wow, that's amazing.
Just saying, right? Because yeah, Kevin?
I have a quick, just a technical question too. So I've in more traditional services I've been to, the congregation starts Nekadesh Etchim Kabelam, and then the cantor comes in sort of halfway through. Is that? And I remember a cantor getting a new cantor or a rabbi getting annoyed that the congregation wasn't coming in first. So what's your take on that?
I have two takes on that. Number one, it is standard common Ashkenazi practice. You'll see it in conservative shuls all over the place, and in the frum world frequently, is the chazan goes b'chayei hametim, all right, and then everybody, the congregation is quote supposed to. The practice is everybody does those two lines nekadesh and through ve'amar. And then the chazan goes back in and does nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, and then everybody does kadosh kadosh. Right? The same thing happens with the stuff immediately after it, at page 97, line 4, where everybody does Azbekol, Rash, and then the Chazan comes back and does Azbekol, etc., and then everybody does Baruch Kavod Adonai together. Okay? And then after that, the Mimkomcha paragraph, that particular pattern changes, and the leader takes over straight ahead. Okay? All right. So, you're asking me what my take is. My take is, number one, this is standard procedure in lots of places, and you don't want to step on standard procedure unless you're really ready to go there. Okay. Number two is looking at it from shall we say, a more rational point of view than not just this is what we do and this is what we're going to do, right? But rationally speaking, this is something that the Chazan, the leader, would do straight out of Mechayei Ametim, and then Nekadesh, we will do this, okay? And then it leads to the Kara Ze El Ze, one says to the other, it's about angels, okay? Ve'amar, okay? So the congregation, rationally speaking, would wait until the Kadosh statement. That's the first congregation statement, and then the Chazan would continue Az B'Kol, etc., and everybody says Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimkom. So yeah, okay, well there you go. Okay, who says we have to be logical?
Thank you.
Anytime. All right. Oh, by the way, just the liturgy nerds here. Okay, there's two lines: Kadosh Kadosh and Baruch Kavod. Okay, where are they from? Pop quiz. Just curious, do you know?
From Ezekiel.
How about the first one?
What's the first one?
Isaiah.
Kadosh, Kadosh.
Isaiah is what I
Yeah,
was.
yeah. First, Yeshayahu, the first chapter of the first book of Yeshayahu, where he describes his experience, the revelation where an angel touches his mouth with a burning coal, similar to the Moshe story, right? And he hears the choir singing Baruch Kadosh, 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 right? The second one is from where again? Somebody. Come on, you guys know this.
You said Ezekiel?
Yeah, Yechezkel, end of the first chapter. It's the end of his first big vision where he sees the chariot and that whole, he was sitting by the banks of the river and there were some very interesting mushrooms growing by the banks of the river and he has this revelation. Right? And he says, and a wind lifted me up and I heard this powerful chorus singing, Baruch Kavod Anabim Kol. So these two things are basically the core lines of really out there extreme revelatory visions. And here they are right in there, and it is all too easy to go Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. This is what we sing every Shabbos, so thank you very much, right? But so the reason I'm bringing this up is not to duplicate the work of the Shabbat B'chol class, but if you're going to do this material, this is a place where you just sort of pull back a second, say, whoa, we just opened up something bigger. We did Avot and Gevurot, and we did hit all of those various buttons and went to those places. And here is, a kind of a Gestalt combo of that wide open vision of the other worlds, upper realms, etc., etc. It's just beware of doing it just a little too glibly. You know what I'm saying? Okay, yay. Okay, now let's just take a look here for a second at the way. The dynamic. We saw this before. Anytime you have a line that's like Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah means I want Amen, right? Give me an Amen right away. Okay. You say Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. You're saying I want you to bless God now. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Right? Okay. Here. You're saying V'kara zeh el zeh, okay, and it's like the angels are all over the place. Ve'amar, you guys join with all of the upper realms, Kadosh. And the same thing is true of the next one, Le'umatam Baruch Yomeru. Okay, everybody's going to say Baruch Kavod. You join in the wind that blows through the cosmos and say that. Okay, so those two places are instructions, right? We're going to do this, we're going to do it now. So, thing to do is, therefore, how are you going to sing it? Okay, there are several things you can do. Same thing what we did before with the end of Mechayim Eitim. You can go to the one, just like everybody here did, which is perfectly technically okay. V'kara zeh el zeh ve'amar. Everybody, Kadosh, okay? Or you can go to the 3 or the 5. And it's going to be your choice. And it's going to depend on how you feel on that given Shabbos morning. Has the caffeine hit yet? All right. And also what the vibe is of the kahal. But you can do V'kara zeh el zeh ve'amar. Okay, Rachel, we went through this before with the other bracha, so I'm going to use you as the guinea person. Okay? Try this. We're just going to do the 3 possibilities, and you're on for it. All right? V'kara zeh el zeh ve'amar. Do it.
V'kara zeh el zeh ve'amar.
Okay. וקרא זה אל זה וקרא זה אל זה ואמר. I'm going to do ay, 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 ay. Can you do that? וקרא.
וקרא זה אל זה ואמר.
Okay. Last one, we go to the 5. וקרא זה אל זה ואמר.
וקרא זה אל זה ואמר.
There you go. Okay. Those are the 3 places that you'll end at. Now, in other places in the service, other sections of the tefillot, you're going to end on the tonic. You're going to cadence out. You're not going to leave it hanging on the 3 or the 5. Using the 3 or the 5 is a device, so your primary device, to galvanize and generate the response that you're looking for. I'm glad you agree. Okay, now let's take the let's skip Kadosh Kadosh for a minute, because how to do that and take people deeper and higher with every Kadosh is something we'll come back to. But let's take a look at the next section, Az B'Kol. Right? And Kevin, I wonder if you could be so kind as to take us in there. Let's see how that feels. Oh, but Kevin.
ראש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים ליום הצרפים, ליומתם ברוך יאמרו.
Baruch kevod Adonai bimko. Yeah, ended up on the 3rd. Yeah, good point. Okay, but before I call on anybody else, let's take out your pencil for a second if you're not completely sure of the way these words parse. Okay, it's Az B'Kol, Ra'ash Gadol, Adir V'Chazak, Mashmi'im Kol, Mitnas'im Le'umat Serafim, Le'umatam Baruch Yomeru. Sometimes it's easy to combine words wrong in that particular section. Okay? All right, so.
I'm just a little lost because I'm in Koran.
Okay.
We're on 89 in Silverman.
No, Silverman 97.
97. I don't see Oz in the Koran.
Okay, it's there, trust me. However, do you have a Silverman in front of you?
I do. I'm opening that right now.
Okay.
I see.
90s.
Okay, got it.
You got it? You're cool. Okay, thanks. All right.
Can we go over how the words parse out again? Because I had to go get a pen, and then when I came back.
Okay, I'll do it again. Okay, well, this one way, and I've done this with a couple of you. One way of doing this is, in terms of delivering meaning, is like, forget there is such a thing as a musical tradition here. Okay, we don't do any music at all, right? But we still have to deliver the tefillah, the power of the words. Okay, so Az B'Kol, Ra'ash Gadol, Adir V'Chazak, Mashmi'im Kol, Mitnas'im Le'umat Serafim, Le'umatam Baruch Yomeru, Baruch Kevod Adonai Mim Komo. So you see what I'm doing. So that's actually a fabulous technique for learning how to be a chazan. Is just work the words out loud. So it's partly just getting the dramatic emphasis and everything, but it's also getting the words to live in your mouth muscles, so that they can pop into the room, which is where you want them to have it. All right. So, Caitlin, want to try it? Az B'Kol, you're on.
Okay, I'm juggling 3 siddurim. I'll go back to my own. Okay. Az B'Kol, Rash Gadol, Adir V'Chazak Mashmi'im Kol, Mitnasim L'umat Serafim, L'umatam Baruch Yomeru.
Thank you, yes. And everybody noticed she went to the 4 for a brief moment there in the middle. Ya ba 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 ba. Ya ba 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 ba. That's fine. Okay? Yeah. Fine. All right. So next, Ariel.
I didn't realize I was.
Hey, you're good. Well, you are now on.
Go for it.
Whatever you did before, I didn't hear nothing. Okay?
Point counterpoint.
Okay, let's start that over.
Oh, it's B'Kol, your key.
Well, that's a little low, I think.
Oh, come on. It's your voice. Go ahead.
אז בכל רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו.
Thank you. Yeah, got it. Okay. Who's Rachel?
אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו.
Beautiful. Thank you. Lisa?
Okay, I'm going to do it out of this one. It's not in the Koran.
Well, it is, but we're not gonna.
course.
Let's not worry about it. It's in silver. It's in all the books. Okay, unless it's some sort of really unusual minhag, like a British publication. They do weird things occasionally. British trope is weird, but okay, go ahead.
Az b'kol ra'ash gadol.
Watch out! I want to hear that major third. Az b'kol ra, ya, 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 ya.
Az b'kol ra'ash gadol. Az b'kol ra'ash gadol.
Yeah. Go.
Adir chazak mishmim kol mitnasim la'umat serafim.
Yeah. Seraphim.
La'umat serafim.
Nice.
La'umatam baruch yomaru.
Yeah, fine. Okay, and a couple of y'all guys ended up going down to the tonic, and a couple of you went to the third, and that's all okay. And like I said, if you're going to go to the tonic, to the third, or to the five to end on, I leave it completely up to you. It's your decision. But what needs to inform your decision is how do you get everybody to really galvanize and do Kadosh Kadosh. And where you go in terms of the cadential endings, that's your game to figure out. Okay? Yeah, you make the decision. All right, we're doing good here.
Can I ask a quick question too?
Oh, go ahead, Kev.
This may seem completely amateur here, but I struggle with, I hear for myself, like the seraphim, like how do you say it? Because I feel like when I'm doing this, I feel like I'm saying it incorrectly because I transliterate it often says seraphim, and so I'm curious as to what you think.
Right. Yeah, like the English versions of things. Okay, right. Yeah, people say in English seraphim, whatever that means. Okay. The singular is seraph. The plural is seraphim. Okay, it's an right? Yeah, just saying. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. But good point. And actually, well, that can take us into a vowel articulation conversation, which is something we'll be touching on here and there anyway. But just basically a reminder: if you do an vowel as if you do it shallow, you end up sounding like an Israeli. Like Mata Rotze Mimeni, Mat said Seraphim. It's all okay. And that takes us into vocal technique. We ain't gonna go there, but basically, as in duh. Okay, Seraphim, Leumatam. Right, you get the point. All right.
Thank you. That's so helpful. Every time I get there, I feel like I'm doing.
No. Okay, fine. Don't worry about it. You're good. Okay, now we got a couple minutes here. Let's just a quick. I'm going to point out a couple of things because, of course, you can imagine what your assignment is going to be like. And the point here is a little bit of differentiation between weekday Fregish and Shabbat Fregish. Does anybody care to venture an attempt at what I might be asking of you? Can you give me a rough idea of what's the difference, at least prima facie, like on what we've done so far. Never mind modulations and the other charts we'll hit. Yeah, do you see anything, Lauren?
Okay, in a non-musical terminology, it should be fancier. It should have more emphasis. It should have more grandeur.
That's a
It should,
great technical term right there. Fancier. Yes. Okay. Keep going.
yeah, it should be. Weekday, you're not going to use as much of the, like 23, right? You're going to keep it simple, keep it moving. It's weekday. You're moving through, but you would take, some more of these intricate modulations and put them into Shabbat to make it special.
Good point. Okay. Partly to make it special, partly because Shabbat morning, the clock gives us a lot more time for expansiveness. A weekday service is designed to be simple and straight ahead. Okay, here's the quickie. Weekday Fregish concentrates on the lower end of the scale. Shabbat, there's a lot more use of the upper end of the scale. And it gets it. There's also in Shabbat, there's, as you say, when it goes fancy, there's a lot more motivic richness, and there will be a lot more modulation going on. Weekday Fregish, mess around modulating things, right? Because you've got a service to do, and people have to go to work or whatever. Okay, and the thing that several folks were doing was going in that direction. You had the lower stuff, yam ba ba bum, yam ba 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 ba, yam ba 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 ba, yam ba dum da dum da dum, ay 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 ay. Let's just say that if you're thinking in terms of makam, weekday Fregish concentrates on the lower block of notes. Yam bam ba ba. That's what you do most of your davening. On Shabbat, you're going to use the upper part a whole lot more. And that's where, at this point, that's where I'm going to call it, because what several of you folks did was pretty much in the pocket of that. Yam ba ba bam. Okay, yam ba ba. That's the upper part. I would not do that on a Wednesday night, right? Also, the going to the 4 minor and staying in it. Ya ba 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 ba. I would not do that on a Tuesday night. I would go ya ba 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 Baruch atah Adonai Amarihim Aravim, etc., etc. Okay, it also applies to different parts of the liturgy, but that's another thing. Okay, so thank you everybody for your bravery. And everything you did was really coming along fine. And the assignment will be basically using just this first chart that we worked on. Thou shalt not look at the other stuff yet. That's for next time. And we'll be getting together again, I believe, in 2 weeks. We have call it fall break or something. You can go to Daytona Beach and party. And
Hodu.
Right. Okay. That's the. Do you know what the name for turkey is in Hebrew, in Israeli? Tarnagolet Hodu. Indian chicken. Go figure.
They need a better PC term.